Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mindset and Muscle podcast. I'm your host, Keshi, and today we're going to talk about the quote change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. So, why did I want to address this? Because in this podcast, we take accountability for what we do and our thoughts and excuses. And I'll be the first one to admit that I'm still working on getting rid of my numerous excuses. Numerous. I think by default, they just come to us quickly, and it's very easy to just come up with excuses immediately on the spot for anything. However, it's important to kind of take a step back and realize that those were excuses and we're not taking actions because of them. So we need to reframe how we're thinking. But that usually happens. The switch usually happens when that pain of staying the same is so great that that pain of changing is also there. That's not going to go away. But that doesn't seem quite that bad compared to where you are right now. One example that might be super relatable is my own fitness journey. When I was 200 pounds, that was the moment that I said enough is enough. I had to be at my family doctor's and kind of being forced to check my weight. Like he asked me to weigh myself and I said like, do I really need to? Like I don't really want to. And he said, yeah, unfortunately we do have to. And then he told me the weight and he told me I had to lose weight. It was so embarrassing, but it was like, I'm thinking of a French saying, la goutte d'eau qui fait déborder la vase, the drop of water that overflows the vase or makes the vase overflow, I guess. Anyway, um, so that was the moment where that pain of being in that body, in that moment, in that feeling was too much. And the pain of having to address my nutrition, maybe work out more, maybe just whatever it was going to be. And sometimes we even think it's worse than it is. When we're thinking about it, we think of it worse than it actually is. But that pain of trying to do something to fix that feeling that I was having at that time, that pain of change didn't seem quite that bad compared to that feeling on that day. That's when change happened. And then I lost 60 pounds. So it's very powerful. But how did I get to 200 pounds to start with? Because all these little discomforts every day, they were building up and building up, but they were never that painful compared to looking at my nutrition. And I'm like, yeah, but there's like ice cream and chocolate that I could eat and pizza. And like, then there's like how fat like am I gonna get, right? Like pizza is still better than non-pizza. But then when you're like really, really uncomfortable and really embarrassed and really, it's too much. When I was too much, too fat, then that pizza didn't seem very, like that didn't provide me comfort then. It didn't provide me comfort at all. Now, the reason I'm actually making this video is because recently something happened at the gym that just reminded me of how I'm still making excuses in different ways, but how powerful this saying actually is. So, for doing hip thrusts at the gym, so for those who know, so you use a bench and you kind of lean against it and then you do your hip thrusts. Because I'm 5'1", this bench is too high for me. My coach has asked me numerous times to use a decline bench instead of a regular bench to do hip thrusts because again, it's too high for me. So when I say it's too high, it's anything from inconvenient and uncomfortable for me to perform the exercise to even painful when my lower back hurts because of that. And I came up with 101 reasons as to why I could not. I don't have it in the gym, or like they don't have it in that gym. I don't I don't know what it I'm not even sure what a decline bench was. Was it the one I do decline crunchers on or the other benches at incline? Because like I don't know. Because I tried that one, the one that inclines a little bit, and that didn't work. That didn't help. But the other one that I do decline crunchers on, well, that one is far. It's all the way across the room. It's not where I do the hip thrust a lot at all. which means that I have to pull it all the way across the room in front of grown men. Some of them may be on steroids, so even more grown than you might think. That's just a joke. Or maybe not. It was just a tangent. Forget that part. In front of grown men and women, lifting heavy weight. And I'm there lifting that or carrying that, possibly huffing and puffing to get it where I need to be. And people are not even going to know what I'm going to use it for because I haven't seen anybody else do hip thrusts on the decline bench yet. Maybe when they see me do it, now they'll have an idea. But anyway, they're going to be like, what is she doing? It's impractical, it's uncomfortable, it's embarrassing, it's scary. Which is why for months I did not do it. I asked for alternatives, I tried those, I had problems with all of them. I tried a stepper. First, this one, well, it was also a pain to set it up because I had to go find it from where it always, for some reason, got placed in a different spot. Then had to assemble it to get to the right height. But then it's not like cushiony, so it dug in my back while I was performing the exercise, and that was painful. I tried adding a plate under me, and that was just slipping and sliding, and I was still too short even with that plate. I tried using that bench, just not going completely down to the ground, just kind of stopping a lot higher. But my shoulders were still shifting on the bench because it was too high. So I continuously went through little discomforts and sacrifices, but avoided the bigger discomfort of pulling it across the room, which would have actually led to bigger results because that would be a more optimal way for me to do that exercise for me personally. And it was okay. It was okay then. However, 2 days ago, I pulled this machine across the room. Headphones off. Headphones off is important because that means confidence. That means I don't care anymore. I don't care if people are going to talk to me while I'm while I'm carrying this. If somebody's going to say, do you want me to carry that for you? Or if somebody's going to say, why are you bringing that? Or somebody's going to say, I don't think you can bring that over there. Or what are you doing? Why can't you use it there? Just whatever. Headphones off means I could hear everything people were saying about me. They didn't say anything, by the way. That was all in my mind. Nobody cared. But anyway, headphones off. I pulled this machine to bring it where it needed to be across the room. Had to go around people too. And for a few of you, that might not be a big deal. You might be totally comfortable doing that. For most of you, I would assume that's pretty terrifying when you think about it. But either way, what changed today? My perception. That is it. That's the only thing that changed today. Today, I decided that my goals of having a dump truck is more important than people, strangers, getting weirded out by a little person pulling a big machine to somewhere it might not belong, by the squat rocks. I mean, again, I didn't even know if I could carry it or if I would be able to use it, but I had to try. I had to know if that works better. It does, by the way. The decline bench worked better for me. I had to just trust my coach. This is why I chose her to help me grow my glutes in the first place. So why am I not trusting her? What's the point? So, since my surgery and not being able to train legs, I lost a lot of my glutes, which was very hard mentally. So now it happened. Now what? Now I think I need to think of today as day one and put the hard work in. And I'm a little bit more impatient now that I know I've already gotten to a part with my body before, and then I lost some of this progress because of my surgery. So it's a little bit hard mentally still until I get to at least my pre-surgery point in terms of how my butt looked, basically. But I feel like after, maybe I'll still be impatient after, but until I get to that point, which again, my mind might also be playing tricks on me, but that's a topic for a different day. Either way, yes, I'm being more impatient, but I need to stop thinking of being impatient and just think about it like, okay, today is day one again. So I just need to put the work in. And I did it before, so I know I can make it happen again, but it will take longer if I'm using every excuse in the book not to do things that somebody who I trust, who I'm putting my trust in, because I know that she knows how to get me to where I need to be. If I'm using every excuse in the book against her, against what she wants me to do, and so then I'm just basically doing what I want. What's the point then? So that was, yeah, that was again very uncomfortable. But basically, at this point, that pain of being in that same spot again, in that case, like not really progressing with where my glutes want and need to be, that pain was greater than that pain of or discomfort of change. And in this case, the change was simply just bringing that machine across. And then maybe even working harder. In this case, it would be training to failure, making sure I train to failure. That pain would be that pain of change again, I mean, would be being in a bulking state or lean bulking phase for longer than just a month or two. For staying in it for the 6 months that my coach and I planned for me to stay in it, even if I'm feeling fluffy and things like that, because I know that after, once I'm going to cut, then I'm going to be happy that I spent a lot longer in that lean bulk right now instead of just always trying to cut. So all of those are the changes or the pain of change. Like, it's a lot of this is uncomfortable. It's not always easy, but it's also not easy and it's also uncomfortable to stay in the right place when you think about it, because then when you look back, years pass and you're still in the right place, you haven't really made progress. That's pretty uncomfortable to me. So I feel like I'm trying to read the last few notes that I have. It was a little bit more about when my journey from going from 200 pounds to like 129 pounds. So maybe I'll just quickly say the last notes I have on this one as well. But basically, in my notes, I have, was it easy to be fat? Was it easy, first of all, to lose the weight? No, it wasn't. But was it easy to be fat? No, absolutely not. And a lot of people will be quick to disagree, but let me at least speak for myself. I was miserable every time I looked at my body. Pictures terrified me, so I only took headshots and the angles had to be perfect, and I still didn't really like the pictures. It had to be a picture I perfectly curated and approved of before people could share it. Now I don't really care which picture, which angle you're taking of me, you can share it. So people's opinions of me mattered more at that point because I was insecure. It's hard to gain confidence when I myself know that I'm not putting the effort to be better for myself. When I eat like 3 naans for dinner, no vegetables, even though I was vegan, etc., etc. So I was working out still, but my nutrition was trash at that point. So then, how do I stay confident? But either way, so that was kind of why being fat was hard for me. But then again, before I was at 200 pounds, it just wasn't hard enough. That's the thing. And for a lot of people, that's the case too. And that doesn't just apply to fitness, that applies to everything. That applies to your job. Maybe you don't like it, but maybe it's not at the point where you're completely miserable, where you think that change of finding a different job is worth it. Or maybe you are miserable, but you know what? You're not really. Because if you were truly that miserable, you would be also applying for other jobs. Are you? If you're not, but you're still complaining about your job, like what? Like, do you think it's you just like to complain about your job and you would do that either way? That's one thing. Or if again you truly don't like it, if you truly don't like it and you're feeling like that that's painful, that you want it to change, and you are taking actions towards it, you are applying for other jobs and things like that, then that's different. But if you're not, if you're literally, your resume is not even updated, You're not taking any action towards changing your job, but you're miserable in it, then you're not that miserable. That pain, that discomfort, it's not to that level yet where the water is spilling out of the glass. Because if it was, and only when it becomes that way, that discomfort of applying for a lot of other jobs, which is just discomfortable, uncomfortable, which is painful, and getting like going to interviews is pretty scary. It's uncomfortable. But for example, when you didn't have a job, that pain of not having a job, that's pretty painful for most people because you need to be able to sustain yourself, right? So then you are applying for a lot of jobs and you are going to all the interviews, even if it scares you. But then again, once you're in that job, even if you're kind of don't really want to go, it's not that painful yet. It applies for everything. I'm just giving some examples, but it applies for everything. So in this episode, I just kind of wanted to bring awareness. It doesn't have to be that way or to stay that way. You can decide that you don't want to wait for that pain to get to a point where you feel like you have no choice, like you can't stay in that situation again or anymore. I want you to be aware of it so you can take actions now. Okay, yeah, I'm saying I don't really like my job. Maybe I'll start applying to other things. And then if I get something, then good, I can just change it. Or maybe I don't like the way I'm looking. Well, maybe I can take steps to fix it now before I get to a point where I'm really hating. You don't need to get to a point where you're hating how you look, you're hating your environment, or you're hating those things. If we can kind of stop and take a minute to really reflect and make changes before it gets to that point, that's better. The same for a relationship. Don't get it, try to not let it get to a point where the pain of being in that relationship is greater than the pain of just walking away. Like, try to address things early. And I'm not saying just break up with your partner at the first sign, but maybe implement things so it doesn't happen. Like, maybe try different ways. Like, try communicating more, try finding out what's not working. Don't just stay complacent. I think that's the term. Don't just kind of stay doing nothing in that situation that's making you dislike it. Because if you're not taking action, there's nothing's going to change. And if nothing's going to change, then you staying in that same place, but the longer you're staying in that place, the more it's going to get uncomfortable, the more it's going to get painful. So, for example, in that same place, you're going to start getting resentful, for example. And every day, it's going to get more and more, and you're going to find more and more excuses or complaints or things like that because you're not doing anything to changing it. So nothing is changing, nothing is getting better. So again, it applies for everything. The change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. But maybe if we're aware of it, we can start taking actions to just make our environment, to make our life better every day. So we don't have to wait until it gets to that breaking point, basically. That's the quote is just about the default that if we're not thinking about it, that's just what happens. But we think about things, we think about it. So yeah, hope you liked that video. I hope that was valuable and helpful to you today. If you liked it, please give me a 5-star review and share it with your family and friends so we can get more ears on this podcast and build a nice little community. Once again, I really appreciate you being here. I see you I won't see you, but you'll hear me in the next episode. Bye for now.